All right, today we're going to break down a technology that isn't just some minor update. It's a complete rewiring of how every business interacts with its data. We're talking about moving from a world where we analyze data to a world where our data actually talks back to us. So let's kick things off with this really powerful idea from the source material. This is not about another database or a faster way to process information. Not at all. This is about communication. It's about teaching our data and our AI systems to finally, have a real conversation. I mean, just think about that for a second. No more writing complex code, no more waiting around for a data analyst to build you a dashboard. You just ask, hey, how did our sales in Vietnam stack up against our last marketing campaign? And poof, you get a real answer right then and there. That's the world we're about to dive into. Okay, so here's our game plan for this explainer. First, we'll talk about why a data revolution is brewing. Then we'll get into the old way of doing things, what we're calling the data maze. After that, we'll meet the big disruptor, MCP, see how it completely collapses that old world, figure out who the winners and losers are, and finally take a peek into the future of data. For the last 20 years or so, our relationship with data has been kind of stuck. We collect it, we try to clean it up, we stick it in a big data warehouse, and that's about it. But what our source material points out is that we are right on the cusp of a huge shift. The first real change in how data and AI actually work together. And this isn't some sci-fi future, it's happening right now. So to really get why this new thing is such a big deal, we first have to understand the old world, the complicated, clunky, and honestly super slow system that most companies are still wrestling with today. Let's call it what it is, the data maze. The way it works now is this long, fragile chain. Your data starts in one place, then it has to get pulled out and reshaped by a tool like Fivetran, then it gets loaded into a warehouse like Snowflake. From there, it's visualized by something like Tableau, all before a person ever even sees a report. Every single link in that chain costs time, it costs money, and it needs a specialist to keep it from breaking. So the big question is, how do we get out of that maze? Well, this brings us to the very heart of this explainer. Let's meet the technology that's causing all this disruption, the Model Context Protocol, or MCP for short. Look, in simple terms, MCP is basically a set of rules. It's a standard that lets an AI model talk directly to all your different systems. Think of it like a diplomatic agreement between countries. It's a shared rulebook that says, okay, here's how we're going to ask for information, and here's how you're going to provide it. That way, the whole conversation is safe, it's efficient, and everybody understands each other. Here's a great way to think about it. Before USB, right, every single device, your printer, your mouse, your camera, had its own weird, complicated plug. It was a nightmare. Then USB came along and created one standard that just worked for everything. That is exactly what MVCP is doing for the world of AI and data. It's standardizing that connection so any AI can plug into any data source. And what this creates, when you get right down to it, is a universal language. Instead of every company having to build these custom, expensive bridges between their AIs and their data, MCP just provides a universal translator. And that means things get done way faster, they're more secure, and a whole lot more can be automated. Okay, now let's see how this new protocol completely tears down the old way of doing things and builds something radically simpler. This is where it gets really cool. And here it is. This is the payoff. On the left, you've got that old, clunky, multi-layered maze we talked about. On the right, you have the new world. MCP, along with AI agents, just collapses all those middle layers. The data transformation, the warehouse, the BI tool, they all get squished into a single, smart communication layer. You go straight from your data to a conversation. It's that simple. And get this, it's not just for your nice, neat spreadsheets. Something like 80% of a company's data is unstructured. We're talking emails, customer feedback, support chats, a total mess. What we're seeing here is how an AI agent can read all that messy text, actually understand it, create a temporary structure for it on the fly, and then use MCP to ask it questions. Suddenly, all that data you've been ignoring, it becomes a goldmine. So when a disruption this big comes along, what does it mean for the billion-dollar companies out there? And what about all the data professionals whose careers were built on that old world maze? Let's break it down. This table really lays out the existential crossroads that every single player in the data space is facing. Tools like Tableau that just make charts, they're at super high risk because why would you need a static dashboard when you can just have a conversation with your data? Warehouses like Snowflake are a bit safer, but only if they change, only if they evolve into hubs built for AI to talk to, not just for humans to analyze. And the biggest challenge, really, is for consultants whose whole business is built on manually connecting these old systems. Their future is all about pivoting to AI governance and strategy. Now, this absolutely does not mean that people are becoming obsolete. Not even close. What it does is it elevates the human role. Instead of building data pipelines, your job is now to govern the AI. It's about making sure data stays private, checking the AI's work, asking if its conclusions are biased, and, this is the most important part, translating what the AI finds into a story that can drive real strategy in the boardroom. The focus shifts from data collection to, really, data conscious. So let's wrap this up by looking ahead. With the old world crumbling and new jobs emerging, what does this future that MCP is building actually look like? And this leads to a really profound change in how we think. For decades, we've had to be data hunters, digging through reports, building queries, trying to find the story. In this new world, the data through AI tells its own story. The insights come to us, proactively. At the end of the day, this isn't just a new piece of tech. It's a fundamental shift in our relationship with information itself. Data used to be something you looked at. Now it's something you talk to. So the real question isn't if this is coming, but simply, is your business ready for the conversation?